All right, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of our Insurance Toolkits podcast here, specifically in the lead training department. We have another incredible guest on today, and I'm super humbled and honored that he was willing to join us. So, Michael, go ahead and introduce yourself so the people know who I'm talking to today.
Yeah, thanks, Colton. Appreciate you having me on. Yeah, my name is Mike Jadach. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at 4Core Financial here in our home office right now in Connecticut. And I've been in the business for 31 years. So I was fresh out of school as an agent with a captive agency that I was there for 28 years. Was one of their top managers for many years. So I really enjoy the training, the coaching. And, I'm proud to say we were a top 5 office nationally in Connecticut for 10 years in a row. At the time, me and my partners, Joe Violetta and Vin Fershano, left the captive agency. We were tops in the country in sales. So we ventured out in 2020, right during COVID, and went independent and started 4Core Financial, taking all the good stuff that we learned on the captive side, which is, training, coaching, good structured systems, and then just wanted the freedom to be independent and control our own income, own our business, have access to all the different products. And, we've had a blast the first almost 3 years now, where we've grown from, a small agency with 20 agents to now we're supporting other agencies. We're nationwide and, over 40 states, and we're continuing to expand. And, that the leads that you guys have provided with us have been a good part of that. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can just tell just from what you said thus far is very diversified. Diversification, yeah. I think is huge, especially in building longevity. It's always nice to start off in a niche like you did, and you had all those years of training and experience. And then you really, people don't realize. I just wanted to say a side note. It triggered something. It's one thing to be like a top salesman in like your city or in your region, but to be top in the entire state, top 5 in the entire state, or then becoming in the entire nation. You're competing against millions of people. That's really awesome to hear. That kind of goes into my first question. I see in the background you have life and legacy, retirement planning, Medicare, group benefits. So you guys kind of encompass a lot, which gives you a really unique perspective when it comes to leads, because you're not looking at it from one lens.
Correct.
At what point in your business now with 4Core, I'll start with, did you guys start implementing leads? And what was kind of the decision maker? Was that something you were doing before and you started from day one? Or was that something that after X amount of months you kind of went into? Tell us a little more about when you started using them and kind of why.
Yeah, well, when we were at the captive agency, we were kind of just using their leads, which was, 80% of them were direct mail. We did get some web-based leads. So when we went independent, we were literally looking for lead vendors. So right away, we were reaching out to people from our NMO on trying to get some lead vendors that we trusted, because we knew right away that we would have to get out there and order leads. And like you said, we believe in being diverse. And I think I've heard you say that before, is to me, and especially as a CMO here, it's kind of my job to lead the rest of the organization on the lead side. So, we're ordering Facebook leads. We're doing direct mail. We're getting telemarketing leads. We're doing seminars. Obviously, we're generating a lot of referrals. And I think that if you're all your eggs are only in one basket, not just from a product perspective, but from a lead perspective, you're going to have more ups and downs versus Definitely. if you're doing different things. And part of my job is to lead the way and vet it. So I've been dealing with different Facebook lead companies, different direct mail companies, talk to some of our key people and people within our industry, and really narrow down, some trusted vendors. So all of our brokers that come in, they're getting a list of, this is our preferred Facebook vendor, which, we've actually put you guys on that there, just because of the CPA and the conversions and my own experience. Even though I've done this, for over 30 years and was a top manager before we went independent, I wasn't in the field for 15 years. I was, running some offices. So I was so excited to literally take all the stuff that I've been teaching and get out there in the field and do it again. And part of that was getting on the phones, vetting the leads, converting them, making the calls, and then just tweaking it. So we felt like we're at a point now where it's pretty plug and play with leads.
Definitely, and it's awesome to hear that, especially on the. I like how you started talking about CPA already. That's great to hear. I love. As you've probably seen from previous interviews, I'm very big on numbers. I think that if you know you're big, you got to be about your business. I always say, my first mentor told me, be about your business and it'll pay off in the long run. That what you brought up more or less brings me to my next question in terms of how did you guys find out about Insurance Toolkits leads? Because you said if you're putting us up there, with some of the others that are, high vetted, very good CPA, your cost per lead, these things. Before you answer that question, I think it's really important to, and I've said this before, to diversify not only your products like you mentioned, but your lead source, because what you start to do is you can start to track and really, really hone in on the carriers or the companies, rather the lead vendors and the companies like us who we're not a lead vendor, but we do offer leads, that you can really hone in on them and start to get that budget in order. Your lead budget is huge. So not to get too far ahead, but how did you find out about Insurance Toolkits? Were you using the toolkit before that, and then you started buying the leads, or how did you discover us? A lot of agents don't even know that we sell leads yet. So I am curious to hear about that.
Right. Well, we had actually met Joe a few times at some of the IFG's events.
Okay.
And then we got plugged into using the toolkit for our final expense quoting, underwriting right from the beginning.
Gotcha.
So right when you guys came out with it, everybody said that's the one to use. So we've been using that, because that was one of my concerns going independent is, when I was with one company, I knew their underwriting inside and out. Now I was going to be licensed with 30 different carriers or more. How long was it going to take me to understand all of their underwriting and their niches? So the toolkit was a home run for us to be able to put in their meds and put in their health concerns and kind of get that done. So it was really through that. And then, we were following you guys on Facebook and YouTube. And so when you announced you were getting into the leads right away, I knew I wanted to try it just because I knew who the players were. And we had, you guys had your act together with the toolkit. So it gave us confidence that, you'd have your act together with that. And since we already were, all of our whole team is using it, it was an easy process to buy leads right through the same format that we already had accounts with. And honestly, the price points were great. I vetted a lot of Facebook carriers, and, the count for $20 on a county-wide Facebook lead is a very good price. So that made it easy for us to jump in from the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the things that we always try to say is, like, we're a software company that focuses on pre-qualification for simplified issue life and health products. We're not a lead vendor in the sense that we have to price gouge our agents and make them spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a week on leads in the beginning. That just kills your margins, and it just puts agents out of business. Joe, Frank and I had talked about leads, a year and a half ago. It was in the works for a long time because, as you mentioned, we had the toolkit right, and we didn't want to do too much at once and lose the quality, which is why it took, longer than anticipated to launch it. But once it did launch, we hear, many of the things such as you're describing as are the quality of our leads. So it does bring me to my next question. I know that you guys focus on a lot. What type of leads are you guys buying?
Well, we're definitely buying the Facebook leads. We've also, we've done a lot of direct mail. I think having a consistent direct mail feeder system is something that we do a lot of. We have a seminar vendor. So we're doing dinner seminars with a carrier, with a company that does the mailings, books everything for us. We've had a lot of success with that. And we've dabbled in the telemarketing. Like I said, I'm trying to have my hands in a lot of different pots to track CPA, track the long-term value and kind of vet some vendors. So we're definitely using a lot of different sources to have comparisons and just kind of, like I said, we don't want to lean on just one product. That's kind of how we came up with the name 4Core, the 4 core areas of retirement. The healthcare side, we're doing Medicare and ACA. Then there's the long-term care side. The short-term care is the second core. The third core is the life legacy, and the fourth core is retirement planning. So we're also doing, annuities and investments. So same philosophy with the lead. We want to be diversified. We're also going to staying diversified on the product mix.
Awesome. And then a little more specifically, what type of leads are you guys buying from us? Final expense, Medicare, combination of the two?
Right now, we're buying the new exclusive Medicare leads.
Okay.
And the ones Connecticut's a small state, so I think some of our agents have done the statewide for the $15, but I've done the countywide for the $20 because I said I think that's a great price point. So I feel like Facebook leads is a good complement to if you're doing a direct mail systematic one, because you could have ups and downs with lead flow sometimes. And as you know, if I do an order of direct mail leads now, I'm probably not seeing my first lead for 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So I think having a good Facebook lead kind of during those time frames, is key. Because I think the last lead order I did with you guys, I think I got my first lead on Monday, called it, went out there on a Tuesday and wrote business, and I think I just put the lead order in on Friday. So the turnaround time, was that quick,
right.
Which I also like. And you're not going to get that with direct mail. You're not going to get that quick turnaround with telemarketing leads. Those are taking longer and longer to generate. You might not get your lead order filled for 2 or 3 weeks on the telemarketing leads versus Facebook. If you're going to have, depending on the state, as you'll have your leads, your order fulfilled within 72 hours.
And we know how this business works is time is money, especially for new agents. You don't have 3 to 4 weeks to be spending money and not getting that immediate ROI. And that's a big thing for us. Just so everybody that watching is clear, our shared leads, whether it's Facebook or final expense leads, Medicare or ACA leads, our shared leads we generate via Google and SEO, and then our exclusive leads, like Michael had just said, we generate exclusively through Facebook. And all of our leads are real time. So the campaigns are generated in real time, but more importantly, they're delivered to you in real time. So you're not sitting on leads that are 18 weeks old. And then we are going to be launching a lead marketplace here soon. This is actually the first time we've announced it. Is just right here in this meeting. We're going to be launching a lead marketplace here shortly, which would be really, really awesome for agents of all expertise. So I'm kind of curious, when it comes to, you mentioned your CPA, are you guys looking at each lead vendor on an individual basis and a group basis? And you're really saying, okay, these 2 vendors, we're going to put 70% of our marketing dollars towards. Are you kind of looking at your lead vendors from a 10,000 foot perspective, or are you being really, really critical and getting nitty gritty with the numbers? Because I think that the more involved you are and the deeper that you zoom in, the more errors and things you can start to find. You can start to be a little more intentional, if you will, with those marketing dollars, especially for new agents in the beginning. So
Correct.
What's your guys' how do you guys navigate that?
Yeah, well, we're at the point now where we've vetted all of the different lead. We feel very comfortable with the lead vendors that we chosen for each of those: direct mail, Facebook, telemarketing. So it is about developing a budget and a percentage. And one of the things I like to do when I sit down with a new broker is I'll have an individual conversation with them, introduce all the different types of lead sources, the pros and cons of each source, introduce the vendors, the cost, and kind of help them develop, a more of an individualized game plan for them. Because, some people come into this and they may have owned the business and they have the capital day one to invest. So that marketing strategy would be different than someone who's, a newer agent like I was when I started when I was 23, where I might only be able to afford, $300 right now to do a lead order. So So we definitely meet with each of our brokers individually and help them develop a marketing plan. And like I said, it's all vetted. I love the fact that when I talk to brokers on the team, I could say, okay, I'm using this vendor. These have been my conversion rates. These are my CPAs. This is a system that me and the other agents are using with these specific leads. Because I think how you approach the leads are different depending on what kind of lead it is. As you know, a Facebook lead, when you guys are sending me those texts, I got that lead. The best strategy you can have is to click on it when the text comes and dial it.
I love to hear that.
So it's a different strategy with, the speed to lead is critical with a Facebook lead versus direct mail. You might have a little while longer to get to that lead because it's a mail process. They know it takes time, but when someone's online looking for information on Facebook, if you don't get back to them right away, they're gone because they may be clicking on another website or someone else might have gotten back to them before you, obviously, if you're buying the shared lead. So I think the strategies are different for the different leads and individually based upon what their budget is. But Facebook leads are going to be, and every advisor that we meet with, we're definitely recommending Facebook, because no matter whether you have a larger budget or a smaller budget, with the way the CPA is and the quick conversions, we're all using it. Some may have that as their main strategy, but others may have it as a part of a strategy where, like for me, I'm doing direct mail, I'm doing seminars, I'm doing telemarketing leads, and I'm doing Facebook leads. I'm really utilizing all four, and it's pretty even, on how much I'm doing with each. And this way here, I wanted to do it so that's a one variable, so it's easier for me to compare CPAs and long-term value if I'm doing similar percentages
right across the board. And I like, so two things that I wanted to jump into. One of them being, I think it's like overwhelmingly important. Like I would say, from my opinion, I mentioned this I think before, probably the most important feature to know about working leads across the board is your speed to contact. Your speed to contact on your leads. We have agency partners that are using auto dialers that when they get a lead hitting their inbox, their agents have that lead on the phone within 6 to 7 seconds.
Right.
So we have agents who are ordering leads on a Monday and aren't calling them until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday the next week. And then the leads don't convert, and then they start to beat themselves up over it, and then they get out of the industry and the cycle continues. And this is like one of the points that I don't mind beating to death is your speed to contact is of the utmost importance. When you get that lead, just like you said, click on it. I don't care if you're in line at Chipotle or if you're headed to the gym, set the appointment, schedule a callback, get that first contact out of the way, because the odds are overwhelmingly in your favor that the first agent to contact them is typically the one who gets in the home. And if you get in the home, you're going to set yourself up for success. But my second point that I wanted to hear your opinion on as well. So just for agents out there that may be a little unclear on some of these terminologies that's being thrown around. So your CPL is your cost per lead and your CPA is your cost per acquisition. Mm-hmm. So basically, if your cost per lead is say $10 per lead and it takes you on average of 10 leads to get a deal, your cost per acquisition is $100. It takes you 10 leads at $10 per lead to get one deal. But the reason that's so important is because, like Michael is saying here, if you're in those early stages and you have, $200, $300, $400, $500 a week, or a month, or however your budget works, you can sit back and say, okay, I need to, for each sale, let's just say we get $800 to $1,000 in commission, and I need to make X amount of money per month, and I have X amount of money set aside for my lead budget. It's just a numbers game. You just plug in the leads, and then the outcome, and then you just continue the cycle, and then you get to the point where you're at Michael's level and you're top salesman in the state. But it all starts with understanding your cost per lead, how many leads you need to buy to get an acquisition, and then the cycle continues. So do you think that agents in the beginning, and this is a question I think is very, very important, is you can't just go buy a batch of leads from one company one time and then put all your eggs in one basket. You need to buy consistently over periods of time to see, giving yourself that year over year ability. You can't track sales data from last year if you aren't tracking sales data from last year, so to speak, right? So you have to buy consistently. This is a question I wanted to see your opinion on. What do you think is the ideal schedule for a new broker, a new agent who's on his own, whether he's with a large IMO or not, or has the training or not, or the upline or not? What do you think a good schedule is that they should be working, and how much of that schedule should they be dedicating to tracking their lead budget?
Yeah, well, we definitely, coming from a captive environment, was very structured. So, we took some of that into it, where Monday's really a good prospecting day for our agents and brokers. So we kind of do that, whether if we're here local in the main office in Connecticut, or we have some agents that are obviously doing that remotely. So we're kind of prospecting Monday to set up appointments for Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we'll do another prospecting day on Thursday to set up Friday and Saturday. Okay. So I think if that's what you were looking for, we do set up a schedule like that for Monday and Thursday. Some people do it together here in the office. Some people do it remotely. Some people use different schedules than that. But that's kind of where the agents that are having the most success, as not only are they buying leads consistently, but they have consistency in their schedule. I came from the school where my two most important appointments of the week was my prospecting appointments. So, that was that phone time. So, or door knocking, some of the brokers are definitely door knocking leads as well. You have to schedule those times first, and then you kind of build your week around that. So I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for. If not, follow up and pick my brain with another follow up to that.
That was plenty sufficient. I think that your schedule, it's not that that's common, but that is relatively, I do see that pretty often. Monday, you're setting appointments for Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, you're setting appointments for Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday is the things that, I always say that you need to optimize your revenue generating hours. Like if it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., don't be screwing off doing things that aren't going to generate revenue. You'd be doing things that are going to put the odds in your favor. So do you think that it's important, especially for new agents, to set time, before 8 a.m., after 8 p.m. in their schedule to say, okay, listen, this is how much money I spent on leads this week. Here's how many appointments I went on. Here's how much I closed. Here's much my cost per acquisition. Do you think that's a valuable thing for agents to do in, let's say, their first 12 months? Or should they wait until they start getting money coming in? Or how do you think that should be playing out?
Yeah, well, part of my job as an upline is to give agents those habits from the beginning. Okay. Because as a good habit you develop in those first 90 days of your career are much more likely to stick than so we have agents tracking those kind of things right from the beginning. And we have the structure set up for them, so they're not creating their own Excel sheets or Google Sheets to track. I mean, it's all plug and play. I've set a lot of those up, for them as an upline. So they're using some of the systems that I use myself to kind of plug in their own numbers. So they're understanding the lead buy, how much they invested versus how many clients they got. And, agents especially a newer agent, they need to see success very quickly. Exactly. So my job as their upline is to, I want to recommend good lead vendors because I want them to have success right away. So, because we're teaching you got to invest in yourself. So if you just made $3,000 off of a $500 lead buy, well, the first 500 is set aside for your rebuy. Yep. And it's a lot easier to get them to be consistent if they're having success like I am with your leads, to very easy. Okay, I got to do another order today because that's what I'm going to be doing. And I take an attitude where my first sale from that previous lead order, that's the comp I make is just going to buy my next lead order, and everything else after that I'm going to do is just going to be, gravy.
And I just to touch on what you mentioned, is that what you guys are typically seeing? Are you seeing on a $500 lead investment, $3,000-ish in premium and commission returned, or what are you guys seeing from a numbers perspective?
Yeah, well, I'll talk about, the ITK leads, 'cause I did track it. I've bought 60 of them, so at $20 a piece. So I invested $1,200, and my goal was a 20% conversion. So that's what I set as a goal. So I was able to hit that a little bit better. So that kept my CPA to only about $100.
Wow.
On the 3 orders that I did, and I generated over 6,000
Wow.
in first year comp, and over 3,000 in residual compensation from that $1,200 investment. So
we're talking a 6 to 9x return on that investment.
Yeah. Well, another thing that as an upline I developed is I actually named it the 94% sales system, because that's the closing ratio that I've tracked it about 650 presentations since we went independent, and that's kind of what I've been averaging over that time. And so the agents that are using our system, they're already seeing their closing ratios 80-90% already. So when you add the combination of a good lead with a good selling system, once you're in front of someone, then you're going to have, and that, so a good lead is going to contribute to a higher success ratio conversion to an appointment. Because I think you've been in it 8 years. Once you sit in front of someone, you're going to have success.
Yep.
The majority of the time. So, but I also feel like how you get in front of that person helps with the closing ratio. As a referred lead and a client natural market, you're going to have the best closing ratios because, they know you, they trust you, they like you, or a referral, they're doing that. But, to have a 94% on leads, and I'm not talking about 94% closing, per lead, but I'm saying when we're doing presentations, we're definitely closing about 94% of them. So, and on the leads I got from you, I had 100% closing ratio on all the appointments that I generated from the 60 that I got from you guys. So, I can't complain about that.
That's awesome. And I'll have to say this caveat again, as I said in my previous interview with Stephanie. Keep in mind, those of you watching, Michael has lots of experience. So he's been
just 30 years. Yeah.
He's been doing this for a long time. I'm not saying you guys can have that success either.
But if you got a good lead and a good market, a new agent can close. I feel they can close 50% of their presentations with a good coach and a good lead. So you're right. I'll agree with you on that, no doubt. For sure. And you'll probably find some maybe humility in this too, because it always humbles me. When I first started, for me, it was only 8 years ago, but this is 2015. That was back when everything was still paper apps, and there wasn't, online leads weren't what they are today. So I was cold calling I was buying data lists from a company called Speed to Contact, ironically enough. Right.
And I was buying a data list of 1,000 names and numbers and just cold calling them. But what I was doing was I was going out to these people's homes, and I was just dialing and dialing and dialing and dialing. And even to know they were cold calls, I was a brand new agent. I was 18 years old, fresh out of basic training, had no idea what I was doing. My field closing ratio was 100%. Every person that I sat with, I closed, even though it took me 200 people to get a sit. I'm cold calling, right? But before I went to their house, I made sure they knew why I was coming, that they were going to have the 2 decision makers in the home, and that they could afford it. So when I got to their house, they knew why I was coming to their house. I knew they could probably afford what it was that I was showing them. And both people or whoever was there to make the decision was present. And even to know I wasn't the most, I hadn't gone to any sales schools yet. I haven't done all these things that I've gone through now, but just getting in front of faces, you will close deals. And that's the overall message. So to leave here this video with the last question I have for you is, what's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self on day one in insurance?
Well, to me, the best piece of advice I can give someone is have a good mentor, because a good mentor is going to give you guidance on everything Colton and I talked about today, lead orders, vendors, how to fact find. So a new agent, I think it's critical to find the right mentor. And then the second thing is you got to invest in yourself.
Yep.
To me, when you're buying a lead order, it could be scary. You're putting that money out there. But to me, I love it because that means an agent's going to follow up on their leads when they're putting their debit and their credit cards in there. So you got to have a good mentor. You got to invest in yourself, and you got to hustle. I mean, if you put in a good work week, your first 2 years, I mean, you should have built up enough of a client base that could sustain you 8 years, like yourself. And, in my case, going on over 30 years now, it's all about finding that right mentor, investing in yourself, having, good systems in place, a strong team around you, and then the sky's the limit. So I think it starts with those first two, finding that right upline and that right mentor, and investing. Don't be afraid to bet on yourself and invest in yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Don't be afraid to bet on yourself, because they say the world doesn't reward talent. The world rewards people who work hard. And I guess one last thought too, just to finish off there, is the freedom mentally that comes from when you put those 2 years, 3 years of hard disciplined work in, not 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 7 days a week. You're just hustling and you're grinding. When you get to a point where your renewals are paying your expenses and your bills, the level of freedom that comes along with that is, you just can't express it. It's not about the money. It's not about the watch or the car or the house. It's the freedom that comes along with being able to live life the way that you want. That's the real, the goal that people should really focus on, is the freedom that comes along with it. So, not having that scarcity mindset. It's, if you have money, it's great, but how can I get more of it? How can I replicate? People that maybe got a chunk of money handed to them that don't know how to replicate it. That's when those feelings of paralysis by analysis and indecision can start to play. So I think that having those years where you're just like blinders up, focused, 2 years, like you said, and get that solid client base. So definitely appreciate all your insight today. It's always humbling to me to talk to people who have been in the industry and had such as great of success as you've had. Before we close off today, I always like to give everybody an opportunity, especially people like you who have really good mentorship program, really good training, really good disciplines. How can agents watching this reach out to you if they have questions, or if they're interested in working with you? How can they reach out to you and get a hold of you?
Yeah, we're Four Core Financial, so our home office is right here in Connecticut. So you could check us out on www.fourcorefinancial.com. We're expanding nationwide because we built the systems here locally. So now we're licensed in over 40 states. So we're looking for independent agents, brokers, captive agents that, like us, want to take that plunge all over the country. So you can call me. My cell phone's 203-231-2814. My email address is Michael, Michael, Jadach, Jadach, at fourcorefinancial.com. So any way you want to reach out to me, questions on stuff we talked about, I got no problem sharing with anybody within the industry, whether they're a part of our downline or not. I think a lot of good people like yourself and that I've met are love to share their insights, and we're looking to do that ourselves too. So whether you're looking for a home or just looking for some advice, I would definitely reach out to us because we got some great things going on.
Awesome. I definitely appreciate that. And I hope agents watching, this is one of the few podcasts where I hope you were taking tons of notes, because there was a lot to unpack there. A lot of stuff that can really, really set you guys up for not short-term gratitude and short-term success, but building a legacy, building a financial, practice that can support you and your family for years to come. So thank you, Michael, for joining. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And don't be afraid to subscribe, and we will check you guys out in the next one.
All right. Appreciate it, Colton.